The rain was coming down in sheets that Thursday night in Manhattan when the ride request popped up. Victoria A., Upper East Side penthouse gives Upper East Side penthouse. Same building pickup and drop-off. I accepted anyway. I was 20. Broke. 2 semesters behind on tuition. And my 2015 Toyota Camry smelled faintly of wet dog and French fries. Still, a $180 surge fare was a $180 surge fare. I pulled under the marble awning of the Avalon, the kind of building that had its own concierge who looked richer than me. The rear door opened and she stepped in. Victoria Ashford. 40-6 years old, founder of Ashford & Co., the luxury skincare empire plastered on every billboard from Soho to Seoul. Forbes had her at $2.9 billion. Last month, she wore a cream trench coat cinched tight at the waist, black stilettos, and the kind of perfume that made the inside of my car feel suddenly cheap. She slid into the middle seat. Not the corner, legs crossed, coat falling open just enough to reveal a silk black camisole, clinging to curves that no amount of money should be allowed to buy. Long chestnut hair, damped from the rain. Red lips and hazel eyes that looked straight into the rearview mirror and stayed there. "You're early," she said. Voice low and smoky, traffic was light. "Ms. Ashford." "Victoria," she corrected, leaning forward, the seatbelt cut between her breasts in a way that should have been illegal. "Drive slow tonight." "Caleb, I'm in no rush to go home to an empty apartment." I swallowed hard and pulled away from the curb. For 15 minutes we crawled through the city. Wipers slapping, neon bleeding across the windshield. She never took her eyes off me in the mirror. "Tell me something true," she said suddenly. I laughed nervously. "Like what?" "Anything. A secret, fear, a dream. I want to finish my architecture degree and design buildings that don't make people feel small," I said before I could stop myself. She smiled, soft, almost sad. "And your fear?" "That I'll be 50 and still circling blocks for tips." Silence. "Then I'm terrified I'll die surrounded by people who only know the price of my face cream." The honesty hit harder than the rain. Another 10 minutes. She gave quiet directions. That led us to a private underground garage. Beneath her building, the gate lifted on its own. "Park in spot 001, she said. That spot had her name in gold lettering. I killed the engine. She didn't move to get out. "Caleb," she said, voice barely above the rain on the roof. "Come upstairs. Just for a minute. I'll tip you, whatever the app allows, and more." I should have said no. Instead, I found myself following her to a private elevator that shot us straight to the 68th floor. The doors opened into a palace of glass and marble, city lights glittering like someone had stolen the sky and put it inside her living room. She dropped her trench coat on the floor without ceremony, the black camisole and matching silk shorts. Underneath left almost nothing to imagination. Yet everything felt impossibly elegant. She poured 2 glasses of something red and expensive. Handed me one. "I canceled my plans tonight," she said, stepping close enough that I could feel heat coming off her skin. "My husband's in Geneva with his 26-year-old assistant. Has been for 6 months. I'm tired of drinking alone." I took a sip, just to have something to do with my hands. She studied me over the rim of her glass. "You're shaking." "Never been 68 floors up in someone's living room before," she laughed, low and warm. And suddenly the space between us disappeared. Her fingers brushed my jaw. "Stay," she whispered. "Not for anything you're afraid of. Just sit with me. Let me remember what it feels like to be looked at like I'm a woman, not a brand." I nodded, throat dry. She took my hand and led me to the huge white sectional facing the Empire State Building glowing in the rain. She curled into my side like she belonged there. Head on my shoulder, one hand resting on my chest. We talked until the rain slowed, about her first tiny shop in Brooklyn. About my mom still sending Tupperware, about how empty the top can feel when you finally reach it. At some point she fell asleep against me. Breathing soft, fingers curled into my shirt like she was afraid I'd vanish. I stayed awake all night, city lights painting gold across her skin, promising the universe I would keep this woman safe from the loneliness that money couldn't buy away. At 4:58 a.m., her phone lit up on the coffee table. She stirred, saw the name, and went rigid. Julian husband, she silenced it. But the spell was broken. He's coming back tomorrow, she whispered, voice cracking. And when he finds out about tonight, he'll destroy everything, especially you. I pulled her closer. Then tomorrow, we face him together. She looked up, eyes fierce through the tears. Whatever happens at sunrise, she said, you gave me back my heartbeat, and I'm never giving it away again. Outside, Manhattan kept shining. Inside the penthouse, a billionaire heiress clung to her Uber driver like he was the only real thing in her entire empire. The rain had stopped by the time the private elevator opened again at 5:47 a.m. Victoria stood in the marble foyer wearing one of my old Uber hoodies she had found in the hallway closet. It hung to mid-thigh on her, sleeves rolled 6 times, collar slipping off one shoulder. She looked younger than 46, softer than the woman on the billboards, and more dangerous than ever. She handed me a fresh black keycard. This one doesn't log, she said quietly. Security can't trace it. From now on, you come and go whenever you want. I started to protest. She pressed a finger to my lips. Listen to me, Caleb. Julian lands at Teterboro at 9. He'll be here by 10 with lawyers and private investigators. He's done this before. Finds the smallest crack and tears everything apart. I won't let him touch you. She led me to the hidden office behind the kitchen. Walls of screens, a war room. In 20 minutes, she showed me bank transfers, prenup clauses, NDAs, and a folder labeled insurance. Do not open until necessary. If he tries to ruin you, she said, voice steel. This goes to every outlet from page 6 to the SEC. 10 years of his dirt. He knows I have it. That's why he's coming himself. Then she did something that broke my heart. She opened a drawer and took out a checkbook. How much do you need to finish school debt-free? I stared. Caleb, I can write it right now. You walk away clean, no one ever knows. I closed the checkbook gently. I'm not for sale, Victoria. Not even by you. Her eyes filled. She dropped the checkbook and kissed me. Slow, desperate, tasting like red wine and fear, and gratitude all at once. When she pulled back, she was crying and smiling at the same time. Then we don't run, she whispered. We end this today. 8:59. A.M. The doorbell chimed like a funeral bell. Julian Ashford walked in flanked by 2 lawyers and a stone-faced EST, Pi carrying a tablet full of grainy photos. Me leaving the elevator at 4 a.m. Victoria asleep on my chest on the couch, my hoodie on her shoulders. Julian was 52, silver temples, custom kitten suit, cruelty in his smile. Pack your little Camry, kid, he said. You're done in this city by noon. Victoria stepped forward barefoot, still in my hoodie, looking every inch the queen. Actually, she said, calm as winter, you're the one leaving. She pressed a button on her phone. Every screen in the penthouse lit up with live feeds, CNBC, Bloomberg, the Post homepage. A single headline rolling worldwide. Ashford and CO. CEO Julian Ashford, implicated in decade-long tax fraud and mistress payoffs. Documents RILCD. Julian went white. Victoria held up the remote like a weapon. Leave now. Sign the divorce papers. My lawyer is emailing you as we speak, and the story dies by lunch. Fight me, and it lives forever. The lawyers started whispering frantically. The Pi looked like he wanted to disappear. Julian stared at the screens, then at us, at her hand locked in mine, and for the first time in his life he had nothing to say. He turned and walked out without another word. The elevator doors closed on the sound of his empire cracking. Victoria's legs gave out. I caught her before she hit the marble, held her while she shook with silent sobs against my chest. It's over, she whispered. It's really over. I kissed her forehead, her tears, her trembling lips. No, I said. It's just beginning. She looked up, mascara smudged, my hoodie slipping off her shoulder, and laughed through the tears. "Stay tonight," she said. "Stay every night. I don't want to wake up in this apartment alone ever again." I kissed her properly then, slow and deep and endless, the city waking up 68 floors below us. Later that afternoon, she transferred the penthouse into my name for tax reasons, she claimed with a wicked smile, and enrolled me in Columbia's architecture program. Full ride, no strings. But the best part? Every night after that, no matter how late my classes ran, the private elevator always opened for me, and Victoria was always waiting in my hoodie, barefoot arms open, the richest woman in New York finally truly home. 3 years later, late spring, Central Park blooming like the city itself had decided to celebrate. I stood on the great lawn in a simple navy suit I had actually paid for myself, hands sweating, heart trying to climb out of my chest. 200 white chairs. One long ivory runner my mom was crying in the front row next to. Victoria's former housekeeper who had become family. Columbia classmates mixed with Ashford and Co. Executives who still couldn't believe what they were seeing. The string quartet started. Pachelbel's canon. And then she appeared, Victoria Ashford, 49 today. Walked down the aisle alone because she said the only person she ever wanted to be given away to was already waiting at the other end. She wore a sleeveless, backless silk gown the color of champagne at sunrise, cut perfectly for every curve. She never tried to hide anymore. No veil. Hair loose, just a single white orchid tucked behind one ear. She carried no bouquet. She said she already had everything she needed walking toward her. Halfway down the aisle, she stopped, looked straight at me, and mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." I almost lost it right there when she reached me. The officiant asked the usual question, "Who gives this woman?" Victoria answered before anyone else could. "I give myself. Happily. Completely. Forever." We wrote our own vows. Mine were short. I was just your Uber driver. You gave me a 5-star life. I promised to spend every day earning every single one of those stars. Hers made the whole park cry. Caleb. You saw me when I was invisible to the world. You stayed when you had every reason to run. You taught me that love isn't something you buy. It's something you show up for, night after night. Even when the fare is 0, I spent my life building an empire of glass and gold. You are my real masterpiece. I love you more today than yesterday, and I will love you even more tomorrow. This is my forever ride, and you're never getting out of this car. We kissed before the officiant even said we could. The crowd lost it. Reception was on the rooftop of the old Avalon building, the same one where I once picked her up in the rain. The Camry was parked out front, washed and shining. Just married written in soap on the back window because Victoria insisted. She said every empire needs a reminder of where it started. Later that night, after the cake, the dancing, the toasts, we slipped away to the penthouse that was now legally half mine. She kicked off her heels in the foyer, turned to me with that smile that still stopped my heart, carry me over the threshold. Husband picked her up like she weighed nothing. She laughed and said I'd been working out for this exact moment. In the bedroom she had replaced. The old bed with the exact same couch from that first night. White sectional, Empire State View. She pushed me down onto it, climbed into my lap still in her wedding gown, and kissed me slow and deep. Remember this couch? She whispered against my lips. How could I forget? You fell asleep on me right here. Well, she said, reaching for the hidden zipper at her side. Tonight I'm wide awake, and I intend to stay that way until sunrise. The gown pulled on the floor, my hoodie, the same one she wore 3 years ago, was folded neatly on the ottoman, waiting for tomorrow morning. Outside, Manhattan sparkled like it had the very first night. Inside, the richest woman in New York belonged completely to the boy who once drove her home in the rain and somewhere in the city. A beat-up Toyota Camry sat parked under the stars with a brand new sticker on the back. Window, still the best ride of my life.